I've had the benefit of 20 years working with Michael Burg in some of the most, honestly, some of those most combative, complicated, important mass tort cases that in America. It's amazing, like we always end up in these street fights with the other side because the cases that we've handled over the years, we've just always ended up on the same side of that street fight. I've recognized that Mike deserves this award for a very long time. And about 3 months ago, I was reminded why. We were at dinner, and Mike said that almost his entire career, it was just one of those times where you're just sitting there with a very personal conversation. Nobody has an agenda. Probably, 3 or 4 drinks through the night. And sometimes the truth comes out. And here was the truth. He said he felt responsible to use his skills, to use his gifts as a great lawyer. I was moved by that. It reminded me of Clarence Darrow and some of the things that Clarence Darrow put down on paper in those moments of pure, honest reflection. When Mike told me this was a gift that he had, it was a skill that he had. And he was given this skill, and he felt a responsibility to use that skill to do some good in this world. As honest and pure a statement as I'd ever heard. I was more sober than he is, and I wrote it down. Clarence Darrow worked as a defense lawyer for L&N Railroad. It was his only job he ever had where he actually made money. I mean, the guy never made a dime in his career. Troy is kind of the expert on Clarence Darrow. I think he knows more. Did I get that right? But he always ended up understanding that what he had been given, this God-given ability, needed to be used for the right purpose. And when Mike said that to me, I remembered that Clarence Darrow had said something very similar. Clarence Darrow had this job with an L&N Railroad, and they were ordering Clarence to handle a case against a widow whose husband had almost been completely decapitated. She had 3 children to support. And he had been with the company for a year and a half, making big money. Remember, all these things that the defense lawyers buy into, country clubs, silk stocking, big, all that officious position of power. And he was sitting right in the middle of it. It was part of what he was because he had that opportunity, because he was such a great lawyer. And he rejected all of it, every bit of it, 3 weeks before trial. And he said, I will not do with my hands what I'm told not to. What my heart tells me not to, and my mind tells me not to. I will not do it. Michael, he'd be very proud of you. Come up here, please.
Thank you, Michael. Pap, as everybody knows you. I must tell you, this award is really something that means so much to me. When I was 12 years old, I found a book in my parents' bookcase. My father was a liquor salesman. He nor my mother had ever graduated from college. But I found a book, and I was 12 years old, and it was Clarence Darrow for the Defense. By Irving Stone. I still have part of the book. Part of it's still falling around. I actually gave it to my son, Stephen, who is here and a lawyer who's a partner in our firm. But I read this book when I was 12 years old. And I read about Clarence Darrow. And I was just awestruck. And when I was 12 years old, I decided, after reading this book and seeing that the Scopes Monkey trial was in the book, the Eugene Debs, the labor trial was in the book, the Leopold Loeb murder case, in which he defended them to keep them from getting the death penalty, even though they had murdered a young colleague of theirs. And from that moment on, I had made up my mind that I wanted to be a trial lawyer. So to get the Clarence Darrow Award, when the first inspiration I ever got to be a trial lawyer came from this book. First of all, I want to thank my family, my wife, Kathy, my sons, Stephen and Scott, my stepsons, Samantha and Reese, because as we all know, the time commitment that we put in to do the work that we do puts us in a position where our family has to be a partner in that work. One of my favorite things is after my son became a lawyer and was working so hard, he came into my office and he said, my son Steve, he said, "Dad, I now understand why you were not at all my games and all my events." And that was heartwarming because he gets it. He gets it. I also want to let everybody know that I want to thank my partners, my brother Peter, who's my partner, my best friend, and also obviously my brother, my partners who are here, Stephen Burg, Dave Tassell, Holly Kammerer, Seth Katz, Carrie Jardine, Janet Aberray, who let me do my thing. It's not easy to let me do my thing, okay? I'm not like my good friend Mike Papantonio. We're all over the place. And I spent 2 days with Mike Papantonio and saw his schedule, and I never felt sorry for mine again. So, and I mean that as a great tribute. I'm also incredibly honored to be honored with the past recipients of this award. Some of the finest trial lawyers who have done more to help victims and change this country in a positive way. So it has so much meaning to me. To be up here and to have this incredible firm and to get this award is just so amazing. But what I want to tell those of you who are solo practitioners or struggling in this practice, don't you give up. We need great lawyers. We've never needed them more. The time now is for everyone to really dig in and fight for victims' rights and fight, like Clarence Darrow did, to make sure that the oppressed are not so oppressed that they don't have access to the court systems, that they don't have the ability to find lawyers who can represent them, and to make sure that the corporate powers that we've been talking about here for years after years after years after years don't get to control the judges, the court system, and what happens to our clients. With that, I want to end it. Thank you very, very much. I am very much appreciative of this award.